Through here, we'll get a close-up view of eucalyptus trees in groves.
Ooh.
Eucalyptus is an introduced species to Maui. They're not native, but they certainly enjoy the growing conditions. The two forms that we see most frequently are the Tasmanian blue gums and stringy bark eucalyptus. One of the key features of the eucalyptus tree is the strongly fragrant and highly combustible oil it produces. In wildfires, eucalyptus trees are commonly seen to explode into flames, fueled by all that oil. But the oil has very positive uses too. Most notably, the oil is used in lozenges and decongestant medicines to help make breathing easier.
Yep.
The old wives' tale for stuffed nasal passages is to put a few drops of eucalyptus oil in a container of near boiling water. Put a towel over your head and breathe deeply into the oil-laced steam.
I've heard that.
Almost guaranteed to provide relief. If you take the walk to Hosmer's Grove later on in our tour, you'll be able to get close to the trees and smell their aroma. We'll also be hearing more about the sometimes disastrous effect of the introduction of non-native trees, plants, and animals, though they were often brought with good intentions. Then you can see the route that we drove to get here. The story of how Maui was formed is the same as for all of the Hawaiian Islands. From this view, we're looking back through time. We're on a younger part of the island right now, looking back in time towards the older side. We're going to talk about how the island of Maui came into existence a little later, so keep this view in mind. There's a series of interesting stores, art galleries, and fruit and flower stands in the next few minutes. If we're really worried that we might be cold at the top, then the Kula Country Store coming up on the right does sell souvenir Haleakala sweaters. They're a little more expensive and better quality than regular souvenir stuff, but it's the only option if we feel we need to pick up something warmer to wear. If we have everything we need, I think we might be excited to get to the top of Haleakala, so let's keep going. On our way down, you might like to stop in and have a look around, especially if you're looking for some authentic made-in-Hawaii souvenirs or gifts to take home. If we do stop for flowers or fruit on the way down, it works on an honesty system. Just leave money in the box for anything you might take from the stand. When you purchase these things from the farms where they were picked, they just seem to taste even better.
Wow. Post office truck. That must be the stand.
Restaurant, lodge.
Yeah. Open. Kula Marketplace. I haven't seen any sign that says how far up we are.
Yeah, it'll give us another one in a bit, I bet.
Watch for bumpers.
Here's our turn to continue up the crater. Turn left for Haleakala.
That's where the truck's going.
Figures.
right, let's begin the true climb to the crater. So far, we've reached about 3,500 feet above sea level. We're going to reach a little over 10,000 feet when we get to the rim of the crater. Also, if this vehicle has a thermometer display, take a look at the temperature here and let's see how much colder it is at the top.
78 degrees here.
For the first part of our climb, we're going to see a few more houses and farming land. But those will soon give way as we get higher, since growing conditions get a little more difficult with altitude. We'll negotiate through 21 switchback curves on this first section. So strap in and get comfortable. This is quite a drive.
Yep.
Here we go. Let's climb up to Haleakala, the House of the Sun. Let's get us into the mood for visiting Haleakala. I'm going to give you a really brief introduction to the traditional Hawaiian mythology that explains how Haleakala came to be. Pele was the goddess of fire, but she had quite an extensive resume, also being the goddess of fire, lightning, dance, volcanoes, and violence. She was both a creator and a destroyer, and she shaped the Hawaiian Islands. Pele had a stick, or pa'oa, which she would drive into the ground to create a pit, and this caused lava to be thrown into the air. Sounds a little like a volcano, doesn't it? Pele tried to create a home for herself on the Hawaiian Islands. Firstly on Kauai, and then on the other islands, including inside Diamond Head on Oahu. Her sister was Namaka, the goddess of the sea. And let's just say they had that sisterly relationship. Not always on good terms and were constantly quarreling. Namaka would cause seawater to rush into Pele's fire pits, so she couldn't live inside them. When Pele came to Maui, she dug another pit, this time on Haleakala. With her magic stick, she made 16 pu'u, or the cinder cones that we can see in the crater today. Namaka and Pele had another battle here on Haleakala, and once again, Pele lost. Though she lost here, Pele rose one more time, and this time made her home in the fire pit of Kilauea, the still active volcano on the Big Island of Hawaii, and it's said that her spirit lives there to this day. There are many legends and chants surrounding Pele, but now you know how Haleakala was a part of Pele's journey.
What a nice house. 4,000 feet.
And climbing.
Yeah,
Now 74 degrees.
We got at least 6,000 more feet. Watch for vipers, that gets me.
There's actually a tour you can purchase. They bus you to the top and you get on a bicycle and ride down.
Oh, really?
Zip line tours. So there's a zip line tour where you get on the zip line somewhere up here. Houses or something. White line is the road.
Did you see the sign? It's true. There will be cows grazing on open land through here. And there are no fences. And I'm not sure that the cows understand the concept of a road being a dangerous place. So, do watch out for cows on some of the blind corners.
Told you.
Look at these trees. It looks weird.
God, you go through a tank of gas getting up here. Does look cloudy. Higher up we go. Clouds are moving.
Very deceptive as to whether you're going up and down as you approach these curves too.
One of the activities you might have thought about doing while you're on Maui is to take one of the downhill bicycle rides from the crater.
See?
If you did any research to try and find a tour company to join, you probably already learned that a moratorium has been placed on the bike tours, and no operators are allowed to provide the tour from inside the national park. Of course, the issue is safety. After several terrible accidents, the national park decided it was just too risky to allow commercial operations to continue. Mainly because the riders they were carrying were inexperienced in handling the steep downhill, sharp corners, and how quickly you can gather a lot of speed. Some of the bicycle tour companies are still operating, but they launch the riders from outside of the national park, starting at 6,500 feet elevation, or about a third of the way down from the top. It's still a spectacular trip, even though we don't quite get the full 30 miles. Now that said, we might still see some cyclists making their way down the mountain. There's nothing to stop you as a private rider from doing the ride. Nothing other than the huge effort it takes to propel yourself to the top. It's an awesome training ride for serious athletes. And for us today, well, I'm glad we've decided to drive to the top. My circuits get sore just thinking about how hard that ride is.
I sure could do that.
Man. It would take me all day to...
It may take longer than that just to get to the top. If you bicycled.
I mean, even in the lowest gear, it still work. Nothing but clouds out there.
That's why I said back there you can see them. Look at them here.
We've reached the 5,000 foot elevation mark. That means we've climbed halfway up the mountain so far. From here to the summit, we should see some great views, so long as the clouds are being helpful.
They have to get up here to do something.
Well, that one was coming up and he's going down, so I don't know what.
Says 15 miles per hour.
As we're getting closer to the top, I'm going to talk about volcanoes. I'm sure that by now you already know that the Hawaiian Islands are the result of volcanic activity. It's so interesting how even in the mythology surrounding Pele, what's being described, though it's not logical in our scientific terms, has some similarities to our modern geological explanations. It suggests that the ancient Hawaiians developed stories and theories based on their observations, and they seem to make some clever conclusions. An example is how Hawaiian legend says that Pele first tried to make a home on Kauai, then on Oahu, then here on Maui, and then finally on the Big Island. You'll see what I mean as I explain island formation. I have to admit, our geology is less entertaining as pure storytelling, and I don't want to make this seem too much like a lecture. So I'll do my best to stick to the major facts and not get too complicated with details.
That little tent is, but that's just awesome. Sort of like a,
oh, look at that.
truck must know his path up through here.
Probably.
That 69 degrees.
God, it dropped 10 degrees. Because you told me it was 78.
You'll see a tempting viewpoint on the left side of the road just ahead. This lookout is small and is a little bit dangerous too if there's oncoming traffic. I suggest we do not stop here. Up ahead, there are many more safer pullouts to views that we can get into more easily. In fact, for this drive, I suggest we go all the way to the top without stopping, except at the park fee booth. Then on our way back down, I'll tell you about the viewpoints and overlooks, and you can decide which ones to stop at.
I don't think that's it.
What I want to do is to maximize our time at the summit, in case we have to be a little bit patient for clouds to blow on through.
This is a red Danish. That was a brave bird. And you can't quite see over the little hill.
Now, I expect everyone has heard about tectonic plates at some time during their education. The plates are giant slabs of rock. They can be made up of rock that's under the ocean, or rock that's above land, or even a little of both. How thick a plate is can vary between 5 miles to 150 miles deep, depending on the age of the rock. thinner areas tend to be much younger rock. One of the biggest plates of the dozen or so that exist on the Earth is the Pacific Plate, and the Hawaiian Islands sit almost in the middle of it. These massive plates slowly move as if floating along the top of a thick liquid. The way I like to think of tectonic plates is like if you put a bunch of blow-up mats floating in a pool. If you push gently against one, it will move and rub up against another one, or might even cause a few of those other mats to move. The Pacific Plate moves at the astounding speed of 1 inch per year, similar speed to how fast your fingernails grow. The direction of movement of the Pacific Plate is towards the northwest. The Pacific Plate is moving towards Japan and Russia. We see the effects of the movement of the Pacific Plate in the form of fault lines, and sometimes earthquake activity along these places where plates meet each other. Many of us know about the San Andreas fault line that runs inland along the west coast of the USA. Hollywood has a fascination with it. So many movies have been made. That fault line provides us with a visible boundary between two tectonic plates. In this case, it's where the Pacific Plate meets the North American Plate. Where plates are colliding or splitting apart, sometimes deep cracks allow magma to rise to the surface as a volcano. Think of Mount St. Helens. So, that's the first concept for us. The land of the Earth and below the ocean is made up of giant plates that kind of float or drift along, constantly moving, albeit very slowly.
$65 degrees.
It better not be cold.
You can honestly say you got your head in the clouds.
Yep.
It's a tree behind it. UPS? Yep, UPS.
He parked there. Or to top or... Nope, I guess... Oh, something up here says so.
Entrance fee, $25. Please pay by credit card. You got your credit card out, or do I have to get mine?
As we drive through this grove of trees here, we can see that the type of tree has changed.
6,500 feet.
These now look more like pine trees. In fact, they are Mexican weeping pines, another non-native species. They're notable by the clumps of long drooping needles. Soon, we won't see many trees at all as we climb even higher and the vegetation turns to more stunted bushes and shrubs. We're nearly at the entrance to the national park.
I got it. Though you'll have to probably under some. You can feel it even, seems like
62 degrees.
I don't think we necessarily need the air conditioner on the way we're going.
Nope, sure don't.
So we can turn that
Probably
on.
turn the heater on.
We're coming up to the entrance to the national park. There is a charge per vehicle to enter the park, and the pass is good for 3 days. Another good thing is that this pass also gets us entry into Kipahulu and the Ohio pools if we take the Road to Hana driving tour. If we plan to drive the Road to Hana on another day, be sure to keep the pass that we get today, so we won't have to pay again. If we've already been to Kipahulu, just show them our pass from when we visited there. I'm not sure if working at this booth would be a great job or a dismal job. Probably depends on whether it's cold and rainy or sunny and hot, though it can easily flip 5 or more times between the two on any given day. Let's give the attendant a big smile when we say aloha.